Hello and welcome to the Sunday Jabberwocky. It has been a couple weeks since last episode, but at least it hasn't been as long since between the last episode and the one before that. So, anyway, maybe we might be joined by the legendary Alice some point. I'm going to have to DM her actually just to make sure she comes in.
Are you?
Yes, actually. But we are joined by two newcomers. Introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, my name is Scott. I'm new to the Jabberwocky, but I am usually in chat, but glad to be here.
Hi there, I'm Dip. I might randomly vanish.
Ah, yes. You might randomly dip, you mean? Just, every now and then, you just dip, potato chip, So.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, it's been a pretty crazy week, hasn't it?
Agreed.
As far as, news things happening, what's-her-face, Nancy Pelosi was under threat of getting shot down by China when she went and visited Taiwan, right?
Yep, and I saw the news about sanctions trying to be imposed against her, but, I haven't followed up with it too much, but I definitely saw it. It looked pretty sketchy.
Now, you impose sanctions on countries. How do you put a sanction on a human, Well, I wouldn't call her a human, actually, but a living... Well, I wouldn't call her living either. Whatever she is, how do you put a sanction on a non-country entity is a better way of saying what I'm thinking. So...
And it seems so not a good idea when we're, doing things with China economically and they want to, get back at her for doing that visit. It seems like a bad idea.
Well... I don't know. I mean, personally, I actually was rooting for China for once, and I kind of really wish, well, not even kind of, I fully really wish that they put their money where their mouth is and honor their obligation,
True. Oh, you know what I just saw today? I don't know if it matters too much, but I just saw a couple hours ago that Israel bombed Palestine again or something. And
oh God!
Rama, I think. So I just seen that.
Israel bombed Palestine 15 hours ago. Several children and the commander killed in Israeli attack on Gaza. So yeah, they're attacking the Gaza Strip again. Oh my God! Are you kidding me? Oh. Israel bombs Gaza Strip for second day in preemptive operation. What operation preemptive? Who's attacking Israel? Nobody. Why are they doing this? This is ridiculous.
Good question.
Because think about this. When there's the whole ISIS problem, they're going around and attacking every country in all of the Middle East. Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Gaza, Syria, they're going around everywhere. Remember?
Yeah,
right?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's just they could,
Yeah, but they were literally a plague to every country in the entire Middle East. But there's one country they didn't touch: Israel. I wonder why. That's a little weird, And I think I told you, ISIS. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can find it up on here. Actually, hold on a second. ISIS newspaper, 1980. Let's see here, images. So, I'm trying to find this. It's probably impossible to find on Google or something. But there's a newspaper from the 80s or something. Saying Israel doing something with the help of ISIS, and ISIS stood for the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, and there's been several documented links between that and today's ISIS. So, I'm let's see if I can find it here. Just a second, revolution. This ISIS, no. Would it be in memes? No. Okay. Well, I have it, but I'm not going to search for it somewhere on live show. Pardon me. Oh, pardon me. I'm sorry. All of a sudden, a sneeze attack. Thank you. Other than that, were there any other Anything happened to you, like, interesting, personally this past week? What about you, Dip? Like,
I'm actually looking up what happened this week right now because I haven't followed the news super closely.
Well, no, like, bringing up my first talking point, and, like, I thought about this, like, at some point late at night, about 3 or 4 some odd days ago, the 3rd, so it's the 7th, so 4 days ago. Now, we all know that Adolf Hitler was an artist, right? Like, he painted. Like, and he wanted to get into art school and everything, and he was rejected ultimately, and then he went crazy, and the rest is history. But I've talked to one or both of you about this one, because I'm really proud of this thought.
You did.
Did he sell any of his art, and if so, to who? And were any of those Europeans? And during the whole, like, World War II thing, how the Nazis really loved their pillaging and their looting. Did they steal back any of Hitler's sold art, if he did indeed sell any to Europeans? Like, that warrants some actual, like, digging, an investigation.
And did the Europeans know it was Hitler's art?
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
That's a question. Like, they're just like, oh, that's a nice picture, but who painted it?
Yeah, well, like, I think its signature, as well as, like, most artists put their signatures on,
True.
their paintings. But once they're framed, the signature is kind of like, under the wood part, so you don't see it unless you bust it open, for curiosity's sake or whatever. But yeah, like, how wild would that be, if Hitler's just like, oh, look at what we looted from the Gutenheimen-Lager. Like, oh, hey, I remember this. Like, that'd be weird,
We're secretly funding him. We're helping him get his, funding him for his art, and we have no idea. Or they do, and it's like...
Yeah. What say you, Dip? Your profile picture matches the background music perfectly, by the way.
Who?
Dip's. It's like a stoner rave cat with... I can't read what it says on the hat.
It says, please be patient, I have autism.
Wow.
I was actually just looking at the paintings that Hitler did, and, he wasn't a bad painter. I don't know, maybe he, I don't know why he failed art school, unless he was just, like, a bad student, always like, partying and not doing his work.
Well, I don't think he failed art school. I think he wasn't even accepted. Like, that's the thing. He didn't even get in. So,
Ooh.
like, well, let's see here. Let me check. Did Hitler get into art school? Before World War I, in which he fought, Hitler worked in Vienna as a casual laborer and an artist, drawing postcards and paintings. He was twice rejected from the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. In his book Mein Kampf, he claimed to have produced as many as 3 paintings a day. Wow. So, he was popping them out. So, like, it wasn't just once, but twice he was rejected. So that's
one is like Bob Ross-esque. At least that one I see.
Yeah.
That one, interesting.
Yeah. Well, that brings me up to, like, a random thought, involving Bob Ross. What if... Like, you probably heard this one, being a person of internet culture as well as me. But, what if all the spots in Bob Ross's paintings aren't random? What if he's a serial killer and those are where he hid the bodies?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, like... Speaking of serial
one of
killers...
them was, like, so similar as well. I totally saw that. I was like, wow, that really does look like the exact spot that this happened.
Wait, so there was a body in one of the paintings?
I'm pretty sure it's attached to one scene that is very similar to one of his pictures. I wouldn't say exact, but it's pretty similar that you would say, like, yeah, that's enough alike where I would think so.
Well, that's kind of freaky.
At least one of them. I've seen it at least one. I don't know about the other ones, but there's one picture. I forget exactly which one it is, but I would be able to tell you if I saw it, though.
Bob Ross painting of where body was found, I guess. Images. No, I'm just getting body paints. And by that I mean, like, I'm getting pictures of people who've, like, painted on their bodies. So, strange.
Hold on, I'll try to look. Let's see.
Yeah. But, like, not to bring up this horrible guy again, but, like, something else that happened that's, interesting involving, the funny mustache man from Austria who ruled Germany with an iron fist. On the 4th of this month, so, like, 3 days ago, in 1918, he received the Iron Cross First Class for bravery on the recommendation of his Jewish superior, Lieutenant Hugo Gutmann. So, that makes me wonder, like, did he later renounce that medal and that honor and everything, because it was from a Jew? Like, I haven't read anything about that. Like, that was interesting just seeing that that occurred,
Yeah, were we talking about this before?
Yeah, but, like, this is one of the talking points, like, kind of why I wanted to, like, not really go off about it until the Jabberwocky, like,
Oh, yeah.
This is from, like, the Jabberwocky channel, on our Discord server here. Which, by the way, I've been thinking about changing the name, to the OMNI Coalition and getting rid of, like, this other server, the OMNI Coalition Discord server, like, like, just getting rid of that, changing this to the OMNI Coalition and making it public. I've been thinking about doing that. Because we have, like, a somewhat of a verification system set up now, so,
Yeah, because you were afraid of that by getting canceled by, like, or something, so you made a second chat.
Well, it's backup. Like,
Right.
But we also have, some gilded servers. There's
That's the one.
there's there's an OMNI Coalition gilded server as well as like a gilded server for our server here. Insano Pass. So, but a second. Well, I'm not sure if Alice is going to join us, but anyway, like, like what say you guys start talking, like, like,
I was just listening to you. I was thinking if we wanted to change the topic or not. I mean, we can go from topic to topic, but I didn't know if we wanted to stay on that.
Anything really, like, just, I mean, if you want, we can get to, like, what I wanted to talk about, like, involving, what was it? CERN, portals, biblical apocalypse, ancient aliens, Hinduism, intergalactic, interdimensional war between heaven and hell, angels and demons, alien versus aliens. What if all religions and such are correct? What if everything is correct and we only perceive a small, portion of the entire thing, and, we can only gather what we can see,
Right. So I see some people talk about that, right? And then I'll be like, well, you might as well just live your life because it could happen tomorrow, it could happen 100 years from now, and you may not even be here to see it.
Yeah.
But since we have the media and everything online, you watch all the fires, you watch what's happening with war, and it would obviously get your idea on, well, this prophecy's coming true. And it's hard to argue with it because you could say, well, it's a possibility. But, if you look at the facts from time in the past and everything, I mean, I would say it's some of it's happened before and some people just blow it out of proportion. But other than that, it has progressed a lot. So you see stuff happening and you see just everything else. And I mean, I would go along with it. I mean, I might not be able to have a great argument about it, but I see people's points. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, what really interests me about it is that, like, because I remember, now I've never really watched Ancient Aliens, like, the full show. I've never really watched it, like, like, often or anything. Like, I just see things off and on TV every now and then. Maybe I watch something on YouTube. But, like, there was this one episode, that, was really interesting, and they were talking about Hinduism and ancient aliens and all that stuff. And, like, and even beyond that, like, you get into, like, the Old Testament and stuff, like, when there was a great flood, when God struck down the twin cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and, like, that one lady turned into a pillar of salt. Like, the past 20 some odd years, they've been finding things slowly and steadily that are actual, like, possible physical evidence of these things having occurred, like, because there's these salt pillars or something somewhere out in the Middle East or whatever that are about the same height as a human, so it's like, as if a human had just turned into, like, magically, like, not keeping their form as a human, turning into salt, but just turning into a salt pillar, and isn't that what it said in the Bible, turning them into a pillar of salt in that words, so.
Not to change the subject, but another topic I was thinking of, I think it was like, what is it, Pumu Pumpu or something. There's been a couple of sites that are like really like hard to explain how they exist and how technology.
Oh, yeah. This is the one with the crazy the blocks that are like scientifically impossible to design with the tools of the time, right?
Right. So that kind of goes into some of the stuff from ancient history and just how it became to be, and how they did it. It's stuff that you got it on the screen right now. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at these blocks, these the legendary H blocks, and the background over here, but like, these cuts, these like perfectly fine, symmetrical, like, right angle, straight edge, 90-degree cuts, in multiple, like, planes of, like, X, Y, and Z. Like, we can't really machine this. And these people did this by hand?
Like,
no.
Depending on the rock, like if it's granite or, whatever they did it in, it's even harder. Depending on the type of rock and all that.
And to do it with such uniformity, not just on one block, but, multiple. Like, this was like what's the like an industrial chain, like what's the word, like what Ford did with the cars, like an automated chain of production.
Yeah, starting with like the Model A's or something. Or
well, I'm trying to think of what the word is for, like, the way he did it, like not what he did, but like hold on a second. What?
I don't know, for this it almost looks like it's 3D printed from like way back in 1,000 years ago or something. I don't.
Yeah, assembly line. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I was trying to figure that.
Like, basically, these are like products of an assembly line. It's uniform. There's barely any deviations between the two. Now, like, a lot of people say the same thing about the pyramid, and like, that's true to a certain extent. Not every single block in the pyramid is built, the same way. Like, people did the math. They're like, if you spent like, like if you had like, X amount of people, or, let's say like if you had like 10,000 slaves or workers or what, and, like the people who built the pyramids weren't slaves; they were workers. These were skilled craftsmen, and like, there's estimated X amount of blocks. They're estimated to weigh this much. They're estimated around to have like, this much time to make. It would take like, 250 some odd years or something to build one pyramid, which like they're supposed to be doing them. But see, they never put in the aspect that after the first 2 or 3 layers, everything is just kind of like, just filler. Like, it's not solid through and through. There's huge chasms, and by huge I mean like, the size of like a human head or a human torso, like, between these loose, large rocks that they use. But it's all just the outside that's the smooth, perfectly, symmetrical stuff. So, that makes it more, feasible to build within a lifetime, But
yeah, and as far as like alien culture goes, if you think about it nowadays, we're always trying to understand things we're seeing in the sky, whether it's what they look like in appearance to the the maneuvers they make in the sky, stuff that's so fast that we can never do. And it's just like, if you compare it from now to things that we have, structures from way back in the day, it's sort of a little similar, just in the fact we can't understand it fully. So we're assuming it's some other intelligent life, or something in those lines that did it, because we can't understand how it all, it all works.
And that ties in with what I was saying about the Indian religions, like Hinduism and all that stuff, because to my knowledge, they're the only big polytheistic religion that still stands to this day. For the most part, everything's monotheistic. Like, everything at one point a couple thousand years ago just flipped, but Hinduism didn't. And a lot of their teachings, from this Ancient Aliens thing I saw, now, it's all about perspective, it's all about how you look at things, but it is a little strange how they depict great sky battles and things coming down from the sky, things doing this on the ground, and then there's actual evidence, and they've gone into places like the biblical areas of the Bible, in the Middle East, to places from the Hindu religion and stuff, and they're scanning radiation thing, they're doing their thing, and they find that there's there's this one area that has this mineral that the only way to make it is within the superheated concentration of a nuclear explosion. It was these minerals that fused together to make this other mineral that is not naturally occurring. It has to require heat more than a volcano, something like nuclear. And so there is potential evidence of a nuclear war, and it's even in the teachings of Hinduism and stuff. And another thing is bringing back Sodom and Gomorrah. There's theories out there that maybe they got nuked, because if you go back and you look at a nuclear explosion, you'll go blind and everything. If you're close enough, you get atomized. What if that was the pillar of salt? There's somehow if you're in some spot, you get you instantly dry up, and you just you're just a pile of ash, because of the heat.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, because I looked up, it says atomic bomb dropped over Hiroshima created new kind of minerals. So I feel like that was tied into this a little bit. Well, you said that, and I wanted to look up the element.
Yeah. Well, they found this mineral in this biblical area. I don't know if it was from the Old Testament or from Hinduism, or maybe both, I don't know, but they both share a lot of things like this, but one of them, at least, they go into this where an ancient battle was fought in the sky and everything, and where they were using weapons from the sun and all that stuff, and they're discovering this really ancient material that only can be formed due to the heat of a nuclear blast, and it's been there for tens of thousands of years. So
the remnants of that just stay there.
Yeah.
And the half-life of anything nuclear is a long time, so it's
well, it wasn't necessarily because it was radioactive. I mean, I think it did have some significant radiation compared to normal, but it was the fact that mineral existed. It can't be made on a planet. It can only be made in a star, and that's what a nuclear explosion is.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you realize, but they say that stuff like gold only comes from space.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's sort of similar to that, obviously, but in a way.
We're all made of star stuff, this is billions and billions of years of gas and dust and expulsions and this and that, and so much science out there to drink up. It's just insane, the amount of knowledge, and we still don't know shit.
Yeah, we can't get out there far enough into space to, we can only look in telescopes, and however far those can see.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the James Webb, that was an interesting image. All those galaxies, it literally does look like a bus seat.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, Soen, welcome to the show. I saw that you came in a while ago. How have you been?
I've been good.
Good.
How's the day going?
It's going good.
Good. Anything interesting happened to you this past week? Anything interesting in the news? Anything you want to talk about?
Man, there ain't nothing interesting in the news that will ever catch my attention. It's mostly, pop culture shit. What is Kim Kardashian doing? Who gives a fuck what she's doing?
Mhm.
Well, like
Also,
go ahead.
Well, she's not doing
see?
Pete Davidson anymore.
Well, I was
I'm
just gonna
surprised.
say, what about that assassination on that House of Representatives member, the
The
Republican
news
one?
has been all about sensationalist topics.
Yes.
But go on.
And no,
yeah,
yeah,
go on.
oh yeah, that one girl, Brittany Greener.
Yeah,
this
that's
is-
actually a good point. Yeah, go on.
Wait, here's the thing. She got off easy. I remember Paul Otto. All he did was took a poster. You tried stealing a poster from North Korea. Got 15 years hard labor.
Yeah, but didn't he get killed? Like they brought him home like in a coma. That guy. Or
Yeah.
something.
Yes, he died. Yeah, man. Only way he got home was in a fucking on a stretcher. They had to
Yeah.
pull the plug on him a week later.
Yeah.
That was a sad story. I've seen the pictures of that. That's a sad story.
And all he did was remove a poster from a wall because he thought it was cool and he wanted to take it home. He liked it, you know.
Allegedly, that's what he did.
Yeah, allegedly. They really had no proof of him doing what they had a camera footage, but that don't mean anything. It could be anything.
Yeah, well, if you're in a country like that, all you got to do, well, you don't even got to do anything. You don't even have to be a foreigner to just suddenly be the target of something if they wanted to look at you wrong, Like,
Yeah, because they were. I think that was in like North Korea, and you have to follow their rules. They had him in his own hotel room, and you gotta like. I think they were looking at maybe even like war relics or something too, but they
War
used him
relics.
as an example, I think,
Okay.
and they screwed that guy.
yeah.
Yeah, man. And you know the fucked up thing was about that? People the stupid liberals kept on typing, where's your white privilege now? Stop worrying about that shit and go help him.
I know, right? Ridiculous.
Yeah, and as for the WNBA player Brittany Griner, the overall consensus to that is like, well, she kind of knew what she's getting into. You got to follow other rules and all that, and however it happened, it wasn't a lot of substance she got caught with. But if you got to understand what you're getting into, no matter, you got to know their rules, and just because it's a WNBA player, it doesn't mean she's special. I mean, I don't, if you're like in the news and they look at you as somebody special, I just don't think she should get preferential treatment or whatever, however that word
Oh,
is.
definitely not, but
Yeah, I mean,
because of all
they
these
want to
movements.
trade an arms dealer for the other guy. What's that guy, Paul Westfall or something? He's, that his story is a little worse than that. But they want to trade the Doctor of Death for those two. It's like I don't know if that's I don't know about that.
the first thing that went through my mind when I first heard about that was like,
the Merchant of Death. Sorry, but go on.
who was it who got like arrested on the same day but like 5 years apart or something?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't remember.
like
Where?
where it was
Like
like.
in Russia, you mean?
No, like some like Jimi Hendrix or something, like some guy back in like the 70s or 80s. He
Talking
went,
about Paul McCartney?
Paul McCartney, I believe, maybe. Because like
Getting arrested for weed?
yeah, so like he went somewhere, got arrested for weed, and then like
In Tokyo.
yeah, in Tokyo, Japan, which they will beat you to within an inch of your life involving weed. They are serious. But like, and then like 5 years later, on the same exact date, like this was a back-to-back, two different articles, same exact date, 5 years on the day later, he and his wife, were arrested like in Guam or whatever for possession of marijuana. Again, it's like, bro, like, yeah, like how do you fuck up twice on the same date? Like that's incredible.
Yeah, that's ironic, definitely.
I don't think that's ironic. It's just
The same date, you mean? Just how do you fuck up?
yeah. I mean, like it's more of like an extremely strange coincidence.
Yeah,
'cause-
I get that mixed up sometimes, irony and coincidence, but that's my bad.
Well, like most people they misuse irony, and irony has been misused in like idioms and whatnot in popular culture so often that we as an entire society have forgotten what irony actually means, and they actually there was a whole thing about it, and Futurama even did like a bit about it, like where Bender actually like read the definition, from a dictionary about irony during, the holophoner concert Fry was playing for Leela when he got the robot hands. It was a whole thing. So I remember too much about cartoons. I can't remember.
Okay, so irony is something that signifies the opposite, typically in a humorous or emphatic effect. So like they give you an example. Don't go overboard with the gratitude. You join with heavy irony.
Yeah,
like so sometimes even I have to look it up.
I mean, like I guess.
Here's another irony: cutting down trees. Look, cutting down trees to make paper to draw trees on paper.
I know, right? Like, that is ironic. I mean, like, you cut down birdhouses to build birdhouses.
Cut down trees to build birdhouses.
Yeah, that's a good example.
That's ridiculous. Oh yeah, or like that one meme where it's like some lumberjack is chopping down a bunch of trees and then like it gets like planks and then turned into paper and then somebody turns into a poster for Save the Trees. It's like, oh my god, dude.
Do you think what they're trying to do with electricity and fossil fuels is ironic? Because
oh my god,
it's like I look up as like irony, hypocrisy, and coincidence. It's
I don't
sometimes
I don't view it as irony. I view it as idiocracy. Because I mean,
it's like they're trying to do something while you still need fossil fuels, and it's like you're trying to push an issue that. It's like you're assuming people are going to be ignorant of it, and they're just going to, oh yeah, I'm a climatist, or, I support this, but it's like, what do you even know what's going on in the long run?
See, here's the thing. So many people have an ego problem. Like, it's so easy to sit there and, like, judge politicians, say, oh, he's an idiot, she's an idiot, they're an idiot, yada, yada, idiot, this, idiot, that, dumbass, blah, blah, blah. But, nobody stops and thinks, okay, you know what, how come I'm not in that position? If they're so stupid, how come they're there and I'm here? These people are there because they're smart, because they know how to play the game. They're not morons. And everything, that's ever happened is not just an accident. It's not just like, oh, it's a random byproduct. No, everything within the past 100 years or so, and even probably before that, like everything, every outcome, every horrible thing, every good thing, everything is planned. And
you can go by this little aspect of like, what has a politician done for us lately? Because if you look at some of them, they've been around for a long time, and I would consist in the argument of what have they done per those generational differences, right? Because what somebody say like our American president, what he used to do back in the 70s and 80s, it's like way different in today's generation. So it's like they have to kind of adapt. Politicians and people and all that have to adapt. Yes, they may be knowledgeable and they may understand things and they've done their due diligence, but it's the adapting thing. It's like what they may have learned and what's good may have changed in a way. I don't know if you know what I mean, but
I do. But I mean, like, a really good way to explain that. And I'm sorry if anybody wants to get a word in edgewise. You just got to pipe up, like, just. But
you want one?
Yeah.
Look at Joe Biden, real senator. Wasn't he against wasn't he for segregation?
Yeah, no, I think he had a part. I was going to bring this up earlier. I think, didn't Joe Biden have something to do with the Jim Crow laws? Like.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had something to do with it.
Yeah, like.
Also, the '94 crime bill.
94 crime bill. Oh yeah.
That too.
I remember hearing something about that. Yeah, elaborate on that. Refresh my memory.
Hold on, let me Google it.
So it's a 94 crime bill? Joe Biden. Alright, let's see here. Mass incarceration. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Well, the Clintons did that too.
Yeah.
That was the Clintons.
But it was sponsored by Joe Biden 26 years ago, the Act of 1994.
Exactly.
The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, commonly known as the Crime Bill, was sponsored by Joe Biden 26 years ago, according to Brookings.edu. And then there's a Vox here. There's Fact Check. Oh, God, Fact Check. Are you kidding me?
Hey, it's true. That means...
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go at the bottom. Joe Biden's controversial explain Wow. Explain.
Explained. Where? This one? Or
The Vox. Yeah, the Vox one.
Fox? Okay. Oh, explained. Okay, let's see here.
That's I want to be. I want to laugh. The content
I'm sorry, you broke up.
doesn't help, right?
I'm sorry, you broke up. Sohen? Sohen? Well, I guess his mic died
Hello?
again. There you are. Your mic went wiggy again.
Damn. Yeah, pretty much. It's going to explain to us the law.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot.
Let's see.
There's a lot here to read, so I'm just gonna add this into the underbar here as soon as I can find it. Here we go. Edits. I'm gonna put this here. There we go. So there we go. But yeah, no, another point, that popped into my mind, we're talking about, how different this country is and everything. I was talking to my dad about this earlier, and when he was a kid, back in, the late 50s, early 60s and everything, he was born in, 1946, so, by 1960, he'd be, 14, so, somewhere in, the early 60s, mid 60s, whatever, in his mid-teen years, he and his buddies used to do what's called flexies, and that's when you got on this toboggan thing or something, and then you just went into a storm drain. Now you don't know where that storm drain comes out. You don't know how long it is, how short it is. You just go, and if you don't come out the other side, then you just have to crawl all the way back out the way you came in. And nowadays, if you do that, you will get screwed legally so hard. There's so many freedoms, that people used to have growing up that just don't exist anymore these days. Everything is just so, so constrained, so in a vice grip, through one way or another, that we really there really is no freedom anymore.
You gotta find loopholes.
Yeah.
It's the amount of permitting. I've been looking into some different business ideas for things I can do, and the amount of permits and insurance you got to do for everything, just the simplest of stuff, is absurd.
Oh man, dude! Somebody did something a little test, trying to start a business in California versus Texas, and I'm not sure if he did other states or whatever, but just between California and Texas, all the permits and all the stuff and everything that you have to go through, between actual signing of the document to get the loan, to get the ball rolling, to actual store opening and you're welcoming customers, roughly 6 months, give or take. California, a year and a half, at least, bare minimum. That's not a give or take like Texas was. Minimum 1.5 years, and you're paying property tax and all the other shit the whole time, and then you have to expect within the first 1 to 2 years or so of operation, you're not going to get anything back. So you're looking at least 3 years of just nothing but expenses, and then hopefully you can get off the ground and start turning a buck back over. That's insane.
Yeah, you need support. You really need support with it.
Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. And property taxes and stuff out in California, as you guys know, bringing the House of Representatives up again, what was it, last year or so, not long ago, we lost a seat in the House of Representatives because our population dwindled by that much. We've lost hundreds of thousands of people, close to maybe 1 million, I don't know, it's been a lot.
Sure has.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, no, going back to all the portals and everything, you've seen that, that ancient structure that's just a doorway on the side of a giant rock or a cliff or something, and people are thinking maybe it's a Stargate or whatever, and bringing into CERN and all this stuff I was talking about earlier, there is a giant statue of not Shiva, yeah? Outside of CERN, the four-armed Hindu goddess of destruction. Why is that there? That's a really weird thing to put there. Why do they have a giant statue of the Hindu goddess of destruction outside of a scientific facility? You know, like, are they trying
to... Dirt has a God particle that they named God particle, so...
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, that's what they discovered, or what they're trying to find and everything.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And I was watching something about CERN, and apparently, you know, and I quote, one of the things that they said, you know, this was recently, because remember they started it back up again about 2 weeks ago? They said that they're trying to open up a portal to a hell dimension in order to tap into a limitless energy supply. Like, and people are comparing this...
What are you doing?
CERN, they're trying to open up a portal into a hell dimension to tap into a limitless energy supply. And that's literally the exact same, you know, premise of Doom 3. You know?
I was about to say, and it didn't go well.
Not at all. But like...
Yeah, you already know the music I'm thinking of in my head already. The Doomslayer theme.
But see, you know, that just really starts getting me thinking about a whole bunch of stuff. Because, like, you know, we have all these...
call it the hell dimension.
Yeah, I know. But we have all these different civilizations all over the world, you know, like, and they all have pyramids, they all have, you know, like, similar things. How did both Europeans and Asians get dragons? Granted, they're different, but they're still, you know, dragons, you know, like, how did that happen? How did, like, you know, like, something like the Rosetta Stone come to be, you know, like, how, and then, you know, that makes me think, like, you know, like, you look at Chernobyl, okay, you know, at Pripyat and everything, like, you know, that's been abandoned for what, 50, 60 some odd years, you know, give or take. That was what, 86 or something? I think that was 86, right? Chernobyl?
84.
84,
No, 86,
okay.
86.
Can I give you a
86?
quick quote?
Yeah.
It says, for, you know, Asian stuff, it says, they are a sign of royalty and wealth. Chinese emperors in the past were believed to be the reincarnation of mighty dragons. Liu Bei, the Han Dynasty founder, thought that he was convinced when his mother dreamt of a dragon. According to a history writing, the dragon was an imperial symbol during the Tang Dynasty, or Tang Dynasty.
Yeah, but, like, how do you imagine something like that? Like, there has to be something behind, you know, like, everything we've ever, like, fantasized about, you know, what our fears are, you know, what, like, everything. There's something from the real world, like the fear of the dark, you know, such a very common, you know, like, phobia, especially among younger people, is a very legitimate and good fear to have, because, like, back in the ancient times, you know, we don't know what's out there. We had to, like, always be on guard, because, like, a bear or something could, like, pop out at any moment, and you gotta pardon me, you gotta take your spear out and, like, jam it in the throat.
Cough at it?
Yeah,
I mean, you're saying,
give
like,
it smallpox.
You can just dream up a dragon without it actually having substance to being real.
Yeah, maybe they saw a lizard, you know, like, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, they saw something else and thought it was a dragon.
Yeah,
like
but then,
some
like...
type of reptilian.
But then how do you get, like, the breathing fire thing? You know? Like...
Yeah, that's a good argument.
Probably methane.
It's time to figure that out. We'd have to ask somebody who knows about that. I guess.
But yeah, like, getting back to my point, like, you know, we're like, you know, like, there's so many, you know, we've been seeing within the past several years a lot of quote-unquote predictions in the Bible and everything coming to fruition, a lot of things making more and more sense. Now, you know, hindsight is 20/20. You know, people do this all the times with, you know, Nostradamus' quatrains and whatnot. You know, they can be like, oh, this means that, you know, blah, 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 I see it now. Like, you know, does it really? Like, you know, or what if that hasn't come to fruition, you know? But what I'm saying is, like, if there were, how many were, you know, other civilizations were there? Like, it only takes, what, 1,000 years before everything is ground into, like, you know, foundation. 2,000 years before, like, you know, that's barely recognizable. 3,000 years, there's nothing left. You know, like, if people, like, you know, just vanished off the face of the earth right now, you know, within 1,000 years, you know, practically everything will have been built will be at ground level. You know, it doesn't matter how, you know, how good or bad it was built, like, there will only be a certain amount of left, you know. So, like, you know, if an intelligent species dies out, how many thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of years does it take for another species to evolve, smart enough to, become the next species? Like, a lot of people believe in this day and age that chimpanzees, a lot of, like, really, respected scientists and such, they believe that chimpanzees have entered the Stone Age. We are living alongside a Stone Age, primitive species, So how long before they get, up to, like, enough level to start comprehending more things, make them more human than animal, so to speak?
I was sort of thinking it's like you don't necessarily need the Bible prophecy to understand change. It's like people are seeing this change happening and they're attributing it to the Bible prophecy. And going on to your, chimpanzee thing and all that, it's like, well, it's, if you understand a little bit of that concept and we share a certain trait with them, it would be hard to say. It's like, yeah, they're similar to us chimpanzees or that sort of thing, but if you're trying to say it's like they're almost evolving or advancing to where we almost were back, in the day of whatever
50,000 years ago.
Yeah, like whenever the Stone Age, when you were saying. So that's an interesting concept, but I just like to go back to the point too. I just think people are seeing change and they're watching the prophecy or reading about the prophecy, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And people are jumping on the bandwagon, per se. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in times of great strife, people often flock to religion. That's just been proven time and time again. Like, people want answers. Nobody can provide answers, so you go to God. Because God is the only place where you can say, oh, it's God's answer, so let's just alleviate that from our shoulders. God works in mysterious ways,
For sure.
Like, to finish up my point, and like this has been a long point because like it requires a lot of context to really get to just starting to explain what what's going in my head is that are we in a cycle? Like the whole concept of of reincarnation of past lives, memories, and everything. Does that go beyond our species? Does that go all the way back to even before anything we can find in fossils and in archaeological excavation sites? Even beyond that, because we look at some place like Mass Effect lore and everything. There's there is a cycle in the lore, and there was a human civilization more advanced than how it was, but then the Reapers came in and blew up everything and everything. But are we in a cycle? Because remember what I was talking about, the doorway, the portal, and all this stuff, and just etched out. You have all these places like Stonehenge and all that stuff. There's all these things in ruins and everything. What if all the stuff that is predictions, or whatever, in these ancient theologies, and whatnot that we still practice today. I mean, Judaism and Christianity Christianity is 2,000 years old, roughly. Judaism's older, and Muslim is younger, or Arabic, whatever. Well, Muslim, yeah, I think Muslim, because Arabic is an ethnicity, right? Not a religion.
Arabic is it's a language too.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is are we approaching the end of this cycle? Are we going to open up a portal and start a whole war between angels and demons? Heaven and hell, interdimensional things. Whatever the case, may be. Has this happened before? Is this why, civilizations whoever built the pyramids? Because those were built so far back, even beyond, where we thought. We think that civilization started 10,000 some odd years ago, and we found traces of civilizations that were 20, 25, 30,000 years old. So we as a civilization have been around longer than we can possibly know. Is space really as old as we think? Is it older? What do we not know? What do we think that we know is that it's not true? And is this just some kind of giant cosmic cycle that we're in? And is it just a few years from now, are we going to open up, the portal, start all this over again, and then become extinct, and then 50,000 years some on from now, chimpanzees or whatever, become the dominant species, and they have an industrial revolution, and all this shit goes on again, Like that's loosely everything in my mind. Like as I said, you know, like when I get thinking, I start making all these weird connections, and I have this powerhouse of a thought. You know.
I mean, it's hard when humans aren't even on this planet for long, you know, so you have to contemplate all this stuff while you're here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can see it happening. Who knows, right?
Yeah. And I'm gonna cause a hiccup here. I'm gonna stop and start the recording. I'm keeping the stream going, but I can only
Okay.
I'm trying to keep the recordings under an hour because I know that over that, it can't upload on BitChute. So we got to split this into a part 1 and part 2 and such. So, stopping recording.
Yeah, we're
Starting
about at
recording.
an hour now.
Yeah. All right. So welcome to part 2. We were just talking about like a bunch of like crazy stuff, you know, and if you want to know about all that, I'm not even going to get back into it. Just so much, you know. I suggest watching part 1. So, but yeah, what say all you guys? Like, you know, like let's have me stop rambling for a little bit here.
Okay, well, also, I've been hearing about this new Predator movie that came out
A new one?
called Prey, and I'm hearing
Prey?
it's good.
Huh?
I haven't been
Predators
to a movie in a while.
Predator's going against a Native American tribe
Oh, what?
in this movie.
Predator me prey. Okay.
Yeah, it's called Prey.
Huh. Images. Let's see here. Oh wow, that's Oh, so it's in modern day though, right? Because she's wearing goggles.
Yeah, it's more modern, but you know, he's going after them.
Well, yeah, but like, what's the time setting? Is this like, you know, old Native Americans, you know, or is this like modern day? Like,
I think it's old.
You know, you were
Yeah.
talking about a movie, and I thought about a show, right? Because I was watching Altered Carbon, and I was thinking how we can get into the day and age where our consciousness might be able to be uploaded to some type of computer, you know, something like that, and you can almost like people like live forever in that show because they uploaded their consciousness to something technologically, and then they can take that and sort of like put yourself into another person, and your conscience would be in another form of a body. Like, yeah, this is all out there, but if you think about it, it's like with the way technology, if it keeps advancing, what if you can have your own conscious into an AI type of thing or something, you know? I don't know, but
Oh, you're going down a whole rabbit hole with this one, my friend. Like,
I don't know. It doesn't
we don't
seem
have
feasible.
to if you don't want, but I don't know. I was just
well, like there is a I think it was a movie. Maybe it was a miniseries. I think it was a movie though, where this woman scientist developed something that, like, you know, you can inject into yourself, and you can like, you know, within the span of like, you know, a minute or something, like, you know, you go into like this trance or like this sleep, and like, you know, time is relative, and when you're dreaming, like, you know, you can have like a 13-hour dream in like, you know, 30 seconds or something. Like, you know, I don't know the ratio, but like if there is one, but like essentially it's something that you put in yourself, and then you put yourself inside a biological like matrix, you know, for lack of a better term, and you experience whatever that is as if you're actually experiencing it. Like,
yeah, it's like you lived an entire life, and then you wake up and it's only an hour, whatever, later.
yeah. But then like somewhere along the lines, like, you know, somebody is like, you know, oh hey, let's you know, make use of this for prison sentences, because you can have somebody, you know, serve like a 50-year prison sentence in like, you know, an afternoon, but to them it will feel like having served 50 entire years, you know. So
Sounds very rough. Yeah, that sounds rough.
And like at one point, like it was used against her because she didn't want to do this. So like, you know, like it's really crazy. But they locked her in a prison for like 1,000 years, and like you're in your mind. So like, you know, you don't need food, you don't need water, you don't need sleep, you don't need anything. But she's just in this cell for 1,000 years, like alone. And you know, you can't just sleep to pass the time, because you know you don't really sleep, you know, in your consciousness. So can you imagine just sitting in a box for 1,000 years straight? Like, that would destroy someone. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and we, you know, and see, here's the thing.
You have no control over anything.
Mhm.
Like,
But here's the thing, what's science fiction of today is science fact of tomorrow. I mean, like, you know, my mom lived through a time where they said humanity will never, you know, well, first off, my mom's mom, well, my great-grandmother, you know, biologically, she lived through a time where humanity would never, you know, would never fly. Well, we did it. Then, you know, my mom came around, you know, and they both were living through this, you know, but humanity would never break the sound barrier. Well, we did it. Humanity will never get to space. Well, we did it. Humanity will never, you know, get to the moon. Well, we did it. Well, every nevers turned out not to be nevers, you know? So, like, eventually, you know, everything will come to fruition. You know, stuff like this will be science fact. Will it be tomorrow? Will it be 10 years from now? 50, 100? Who knows? But if we're still around,
that.
like, you know, it will happen at some point. You know, it's just
I
inevitable.
do wonder of what our generation's future will look like, because it's got to be some prophetic, crazy stuff compared to the past, because
Yeah.
that's just what I think.
Because, like, you know, for all we know, we can just be brains in jars. You know, the brain in jar theory. Because everything you see, smell, touch, taste, hear, you know, all your senses is just electrical and chemical, you know, signals in a 10-pound lump of fat. You know, is anything real? Are we in a simulation? You know, are we living out the whole life? You know, or like that one meme, you know, what if, you know, you live your whole life and then, like, you know, you're on your deathbed, you see a bright light, and then you open your eyes and you're holding a bong and you're surrounded by aliens. They're like, dude, did you feel it? Like, holy shit.
Well, I feel like, here, look, like, we can have free thought, free conversation like we're doing now. If we were in a total simulation, I feel like this may not happen as much. Like, we can actually discuss life, and we can just go down these rabbit holes, and we can talk about each other's different feelings. It's like,
Yeah.
we can converse halfway across the world right now on our video.
Oh, yeah.
So we just get some options, you know, to understand our life that we live.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like, imagine the world just 20 years ago. You know, 2002? Like, we haven't invaded Iraq yet. Like, we invaded, what, in 2003, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't even, like, done, like, Operation Enduring Freedom and all that stuff. The wounds from the towers going were still fresh. You know, Facebook wasn't around. MySpace, I don't even think was around. And, like, you know, think about everything in the past 20 years. You know, like, and everything's just exponentially faster. Like, where will we be if we're still around 20 years from now, 40 years from now? Like, you know, it's insane.
There's definitely a lot of pros and cons to it. Because it was, I mean, people like to say the 50s and 40s were simpler times. Well, it's just like 20 years ago was still simpler times.
Yeah, the 50s was simpler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like even 20 years ago was still had some remnants of that.
Yeah.
For who?
Well, like, we were discussing this the other night, me and Ao. Like, I only had like 60 channels. We had our cartoons. We had just very minor gaming back then, and just, you know, everything was a newspaper still. And even if the internet, you'd have to look up articles. Stuff was still relatively primitive compared to today's social media and all that standards.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, because I still remember, because we're talking about 20 years ago, and I was like, you know, 4th or 5th grade at that time, and I mean, it was definitely different, man.
20 years ago, I was a sophomore in high school, 2002. So,
20 years ago, I was 14.
damn.
Yeah, I was like not even a teenager yet, but the fact is, look, I remember 9/11 in 4th grade. That's a very vivid, you know, memory from 2001 for me. So if I go back 20 years, I kind of put that in my head and then I think about it. So I could even if I'm really young, sort of place myself back there.
Y'all are some old bastards. I'm not even 20.
Wow. You,
I'm gonna be 30, but I had no idea how everyone's age was. But that's funny, man.
Dip is literally a fetus still in diapers.
It's all right. Hey, we got a big, wide range of minds here. It'll work.
Yeah, we have, what are you, 18, 19, Dip?
18.
Yeah, we have 18. Then Sohen's 34. I'm 35. And Scott, you're
I'm
what,
still
29?
29, but
Yeah.
I'll be 30 in October.
All right.
Well, I'm 33. I'm gonna be 34 eventually in 13 more days.
Oh, wow.
Oh, damn. Well, happy early birthday.
Yeah. Remind me, I'll put you in the show. And you too, Scott and Dip. Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I'm going to be turning into my 30s this year. I guess it's finally happening, but...
Man, yeah, the big 3-0. Like, oh, that's when you know, it's coming at you. You know, and
yeah.
And the world start coming and it don't stop 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 coming.
We'll do the Smash Talking version.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah, Dip, once you hit 21, it's just, it's all downhill in a sad way, you know? There's nothing else to
Yeah,
look
because,
forward
man,
to.
listen, I remember when I was around his age and I got a half-brother, and it's like you're just trying to get through school or high school and college. Some people don't want to go to school anymore. And it's like you either are, you have friends, you're part of that crowd, or you're not. And it's like, now that I'm here at my age, it's like people have moved on, they have families, jobs, and this and that, and it's like you're trying to just find your way. Either you have or you haven't, you know? It's like, shit.
Yeah, well, you know, a friend of mine I had at the time, you know, way back when, I like, okay, so, back, during the first time I tried college, like, I was in, like, you know, there's the student lounge, there's, like, you know, some, you know, arcade games, you know, Tekken, and, you know, Soul Calibur, and, like, some other things in there, and all that sort of pool table, and just, you know, places to chill. And, I don't remember exactly, but, like, this one random guy, like, I was just hanging out with him, and he offered me a ride home, and I'm just like, oh, okay, and then, like, I had my bike and everything, and then we became friends and all that stuff, and then at some point he got married, you know, a couple years later, and then he had a kid, you know, at, like, you know, the age of, like, 23, 24, and he was, like, a year or so older than I am, you know, and now I'm 35, you know, and, like, everything's blowing by, and it's just like, oh my god, and the situation in California isn't helping, so, yeah. Yeah, it's just...
I know, it's tough, man. It's tough, I hear you.
It is.
Yeah,
It really
I would
is.
say at this point in life, I'm just trying to...
And then, like, I don't know, I felt like for me, it's like you kind of try to get yourself out there, you're pushing for miracles, you're, you know, hoping that things work out, it gets frustrating,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, it takes work, you know, within yourself and just life in general. I mean, It doesn't matter where you are. I mean, you could be happy for the people who've kind of got their shit together and they're, you know, doing their family thing and all that, but, you know, It doesn't make you any less of a person, in my opinion. You're still trying to find your way, you know, you're still human.
Yeah. Dip, you were going to say something?
I was just saying, at this point in life, I'm just trying to figure out what the best use of my time, you know, the short amount of time that I have here is, and in the meantime, while I'm figuring that out, not doing stupid shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have any influences affecting you. Just be careful with other people's influences on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the best advice I can give is, like, figure out what you enjoy. Like, you know, what do you like? You know, like, as for me, like, I enjoy history. I do a daily history show. And every now and then, you know, although not as often as I wish, but you know, whatever. He sometimes shows up and such. But, like, you know, I'm just doing what I can with what I have, and that's all I can do, you know? Like, and as long as, you know, you do that, you know, then what else can somebody expect from you? Just go out, grab life by the horns, and just ride it, you know? Play the cards you're held.
Grab life by the gonads.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm thankful for any good connections we got, so I'm not taking that for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like what Soen said, grab life by the gonads, because sure as shit, life already has, you know, your family jewels firmly cupped in its palm. And it is tugging. So. But yeah.
But it won't finish. It will blue ball you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just constantly living on the edge has a whole new meaning now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I found out what the fuck that means. That shit's nasty.
I know, right? Like, like society is amazing. Like, I'm 35 years old. I'm still learning new things. Like, it's awesome.
I look at certain people and I feel like they're lucky if they're, either born into a very successful family and they already have all these options put in front of them. And even if they don't have a great job, they're supported. And it's like, damn, they're lucky kind of. But I don't know.
They're not lucky. They're numbed down on drugs.
Yeah. Well, I feel like guys like us really have to go down all the rabbit holes of life. We're not just put in a position of, successful, our parents are going to pay us through college and we can do whatever the hell we want. But, it's so different with just society differences and what class you're in. And it's hard.
Now, here's a funny thing about life. Like, I was given a lot of those opportunities. Like, I've dropped out of college 3 times. Like, so, like, I've had plenty of opportunities, and I've screwed them up one reason or another and such. But, like, what's really weird is, like, like, you can't sit there and kick yourself on the butt for what you haven't done or what you haven't achieved and everything. Because, like, I look back, what if I did pursue, what I wanted to do with editing? What if I did pursue, like, but, like, there's been so many times where, like, I've done, YouTube since 2006. I'm one of the OGs, like, what got me into actually doing YouTube was a combination of, this, like, now long dead channel called Balloon Shop. They did a bunch of random skits and stuff. And then Philip DeFranco, was getting on the scene and everything. And he was doing his news show and everything. And I'm like, what? I enjoy news. I enjoy, like, standing up and, like, with the, like, I didn't know at the time, but, the Alex Jones attitude,
Mm-hmm.
It was like, the best weapon in the world is books. You can kill people with swords, but knowledge will always defeat you if you're evil,
Yeah, that goes to your semantics point.
Yeah, but, like, but, like, I look back at, like, like, if I hadn't, dropped, because, like, I've dropped countless times, like, it's like, my parents needed my help at the shop, or something happened, or whatever, and I just drop everything and I help, because I'm a giver, not a taker. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Well, I'll fight, but, like, you get what I mean. Like, I do things for other people at my own expense, and unfortunately, it got to the point where it's still a check that I'm cashing with my ass to this day. Like, but if I had become, like, because I got 100 subscribers, on my old, channel long before it got banned and everything, and I was doing good, and every time I started back up, I was doing good, and then I died, and then I start back up, and then I, but if I had been successful with that, if I had gone into the industry, after I was, like, really getting into editing, if I had, if any of my dreams I had followed and tried, if anything had become successful, I think I'd actually be in a worse position than I am in now. Because, if I had made it and I was able to live up in, the Seattle area in Washington, over in Everett, or if I had made it, more recently, back in, like, 2015, 2016, I think it was 2016, actually, whatever, like, trying to move out, again, like, start a new life up in Portland, Oregon, if I had gotten into the editing industry and everything, like, Portland and Seattle, we know today what they are. They're horrible areas of unparalleled wokeness, so I wouldn't survive there. I'd probably get shot, especially because, I'm, out of state and all that stuff. I'm in an alien area, so to speak. Or if I had gotten to editing and all that stuff, well, if I wanted to keep my job and keep, working, then I'd have to go woke, So, like, I think, now, despite, like, going through, like, horrible emotional, like, agony, like,
you didn't want to.
I'm living the best life I could if everything else would have been, if anything else had been successful, I'd be in a worse spot. And then that makes me think, oh, am I just doomed to live in shit, or, like, like, like something big is coming for me. I don't know, but something big, and just all you got to do is just keep fighting, like, it's always darkest before dawn, like, don't do anything crazy, just keep fighting, and the fruits of your labor will arise somewhere, maybe,
You can't sacrifice all your morals every time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, like, there's another really good saying, like, if you're unwilling to sacrifice everything for what you want, then what you want is what you sacrifice. You know? Something like that.
I was contemplating that one. That's interesting.
Yeah. Because it's true. You know, if you don't really push for it, if you don't fight tooth and nail for what you want, then do you really want it? Do you really have... You got to earn, you know, your spot in life. You know? And obviously for some people it's harder than others, but that's what makes them better at the end of the show. You know, because they come up, you know, they're covered in all this gook and all this crap and everything, but, you know, they're that much better for it. You know? Like, and... Yeah.
And then, I don't know, there's some people out there, they'll never even see what you're fighting for, if it's your own demons, and, you know, just trying to get yourself out there to fight that fight and get yourself out there. I mean, it's...
Well, a really good example of just that, you know, are immigrants and their children. Like, you know, the parents come over here, you know, then they work janitors, they bust their ass, you know, 12, 16, 18-hour days, you know, just, you know, doing just the shit jobs and just... you know, really ecking it out, but then their children, they get to go to school, they get to go to college, they get to get degrees, you know, and like these second and third generation, you know, people, you know, of immigrant families, like there's this one guy, this guy from like Singapore or whatever, where his parents came over here, you know, poor as dirt, and now this guy's making, you know, multi-million dollars a year because of the fruits of his parents' labor. He's enjoying, and that's the whole chain of life. You know, like, the baby boomers got to live in luxury and everything because of, you know, the greatest generation, the World War II vets, and, you know, all the people from that generation and everything, ensuring what they had to go through in life, their children wouldn't have to. And then through them, you know, people like my generation, you know, Stoen and I, you know, like in our mid-30s and everything, you know, but now... You know, this is why we have the problems of today. Everything is so cushy. Nobody actually has a true aspect of what real hard times are. So, inevitably, they have to complain about something, and when the worst thing that happens to somebody is, like, their macchiato isn't fully iced, you know, then, yeah, once again, it's all about perspective. It's not that, you know, they're just whining. It's that, you know, legitimately that's the worst thing that's happened, you know? And we really need a wake-up call. You know, to really get us back on track. And unfortunately, you know, this is a cycle. We are approaching, like, the hard times. The next couple of years, you know, we're looking at a civil war, a collapse of our nation, a collapse of the global economy, you know, because of our dollar. You know what's, you know, and also what China's doing. China is, you know, doing a whole bunch of shady stuff with South America and Central America and everything politically and all that stuff. And, you know... Maybe we are due for another 1,000 years of darkness, you know, like the Dark Ages, you know, 1,000 years of crap, you know, and then, like, but except, you know, now we're going to have iPhones and iPads and everything, you know, whatever technology we have. It's going to dip down for a little bit, but maybe after, like, you know, 100 or some odd years, our great-great-great-grandchildren will enjoy the fruits of the hardship that us and the next couple of generations are just going to just get wrecked through, you know?
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you for sure. I think we have to discuss this subject matter like on a day-to-day process to totally understand it, because it's really hard to say. I mean, I don't look forward to what I'm seeing now in a great light. I feel like, you know, there's people on the other end of it that are trying to do right, and they want to see this world go forward in a better way. But when you're getting things like thrown upon you that you can't control, such as weather or sun or space or just aliens or whatever, that's something you can't contemplate. Like, who knows, that could get thrown in your face one day and then our whole life is changing.
Yeah, you know, or if, like, you know, if we are living towards, you know, the end times, if we are, you know, if this truly is the beginning of the end, you know, the apocalypse, the rapture, you know, like, you know, like, you know, if CERN is, you know, doing, you know, what they're saying that they're doing, you know, and as I said, how many times have we done this cycle? Is it a cycle? Like, all of this is just theoretical hypothesis, you know, like, all we can...
And why would that be a thing in the Bible anyway if it was just BS? It's having people believe this, like, steadfastly, right? So if this didn't have any merit in today's life, why would it be a thing at all? That's what I feel like. It's like...
Well, I mean, like, like that brings up the whole thing about, like, if you compare Horus to Jesus, like, there's a lot of comparisons, like,
I went down that with you. Yeah, we discussed that.
but like, as I said before, like, when I was talking about dragons, when we were talking about dragons earlier and everything, when you go back down the line, at some point it has to start from somewhere, like, the space battle between the gods, of the heavens and the demons of the earth, happening, in Hindu religion. Somebody wasn't just sitting there smoking opium and, like, had a trip. Like, something happened. Something happened,
Yeah.
and, everything before the written word, before hieroglyphics, before all that stuff, everything was oral history for thousands and thousands and thousands of years,
Yeah.
And because of our requirement, of documentation, and the legitimacy of that to a certain extent, we can't say for sure, anything after a certain period of time. But something happened. Something happened that we can't explain.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's subjective or hypothetical, there's facts in it somewhere. It depends.
But, like, was there like an ancient alien war, 50,000 years ago when they were just lobbing nukes all over the place? Maybe. Was it a war between heaven and hell? Maybe. Was it something interdimensional? Maybe. What if all those three things are rolled into one? Like, as the saying goes, what is magic but technology misunderstood?
See, now there's one thing you could say. It's like with the dinosaurs and the asteroid that hit, and that how the continents split apart at some point.
Yeah, from Pangea and all the geological and tectonic activities, everything, and eventually we're going to become another Pangea. In like another 30 million years or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's like something you can look at, but there's a lot of stuff you can't. I mean, we went into the Christian thing a little bit, and there's, they'll believe a lot of stuff, but my friend, he's like on the fence about stuff. It's just he's so into it, and like, they believe a lot of things that, I don't know. We don't have to go into it now, but, they don't. Some of them, they don't think the world's that old. The whole flat Earth thing, and, they go by certain morals and standards, just by the book and this and that. But we don't have to go down that. But I'm just implying it, to this conversation. But
now, speaking of flat Earth, there's two things I have to say. Okay, one, and this is like, this has been said so often it's not really even funny anymore. But if the Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off of it by now. Number one. And number two, and just as equally as like comically true, if the Earth was flat, then we would know for certain because some capitalist would have built a theme park and be charging admission to look over the edge. Like
good one.
That's a fact. Yeah. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, the first thing I told him, I was like, hey man, look at the observable planets. We would be one of the only flat planets out there, and I discussed like gravity with them. And you could even go as like the 24-hour day and the sun, everything. It would not be anything like it. So
yeah, that reminds me exactly of this meme right here. Crazy how nature does that. Everything is round and Earth is just this perfectly like square thing. It's like, crazy how nature does that. Like, really?
Yeah, right. It's crazy, sure.
Now, one other theory I am a subscriber to is the Hollow Earth theory. Because massive cavernous systems in the Earth and all that stuff. We're always finding things like, the whole theory that like, Bigfoot is actually not like a mountainous creature. It's actually a subterranean creature. That like maybe like it split off evolutionarily, like 1,000 years ago or whatever. I don't know.
Believing in the Hollow theory believes in Godzilla, right?
Well, I think that Megalodon still exists. We don't know what's in the ocean. Maybe there is a Godzilla. I mean, how Godzilla was created.
The only thing we've studied is like the Mariana Trench. Like that's as far I think as we've gone down in the ocean.
Well, that's the deepest part of the ocean. But like, we've only explored like what 2% of the ocean. Like, and that's because like there's so many subterranean caves and so many this and so many that, and like, we haven't like physically gone down and observed every crack, crevice, and crease. Every volcano, every hole in the wall. Like, we don't know what's
and
out
not
there.
everything is like a scripted TV show, so
Yeah.
there's a lot unexplored out there. Some people try to make shows, and I feel like some of it's scripted, and they're putting a show together. But my point being is, I wish it was explored more. I mean, I look at stuff like shipwrecks, and just stuff that's been sitting at the bottom of the ocean forever, and it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Oh, that's it's astounding. You've seen the movie The Abyss. Like, we don't know what's down there. Have you seen the movie The Abyss?
Possibly. I mean, there's certain things I've watched, maybe documentaries.
It's a movie. It's a sci-fi thriller action movie type thing. Like, it's about this team that's in this sea lab at the lip of the Marianas Trench, and then things go awry, and then now it's been out for a while, so do you mind if I spoil something, or do you? Because
no, you could if you want. Sure, I mean,
it is a really good movie. So essentially, they discover aliens living at the bottom, like an entire
yeah. Because the thing what I watched about the Mariana Trench was that producer, I think some guy who went in a submarine down there, and they found plastic down there and just other
James
stuff
Cameron.
that they documented.
James Cameron went down there.
Yes,
yeah.
There you go.
What was that? 2010.
Yeah, he looked at the bar.
Yeah, he did. James Cameron does what James Cameron does because he's James Cameron. It's James Cameron.
And he also had a whole battle with Randy Newman.
He did?
Yeah, in that same episode, he had a battle with Randy Newman.
Huh. I don't remember that.
That's in South Park.
I know. I don't remember him fighting Randy Newman. I remember Randy Newman from Fatty Doo-Doo when Token was following... no, not Token. Butters was following Cartman around to make Token's little video or something. Yeah, anyway. Oh man, we've been talking for nearly an hour and a half. Does anybody else have any more to add? Any other news and stuff like that?
I've been talking quite a lot, so I'd like to hear if anybody has any other input. I mean, I've been going on, so.
Not really.
Oh, we lost Dip. He dipped.
Wait.
Yeah.
I don't know. Time just flies for me when we're talking. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Well, it's a shame that Alice couldn't join us today. I was really looking forward to that. But, oh well.
Did you have, so you got back in with her? I thought you sort of had a falling out, but...
I did a while ago, and then I gave the green light for Soen to re-invite her and Hawk back into the server. It was up to him, and he did. And then I inevitably, unfortunately, had to remove Hawk because just our two natures, our two natures are just too abrasive, and we just can't be around each other. It's for lack of a better explanation, it's toxic almost to a point of you've seen the movie Hancock, right?
Yes.
So how those gods, they get together and then they start breaking down and everything. We're kind of like that. Just not even being in proximity, just being in the same server, being in the same community with them, just knowing his hypocrisy, and it just drives me up a wall, and I just can't handle being in the same metaphorical room with somebody like that. That some personalities just can't be, we're an example, unfortunately, and I don't really have much family left, and it's just getting thinner. So, but yeah. Anyway,
well, you could always have family like us in chat. I mean, I'm not going anywhere.
Oh yeah, well, I invited my dad to join us for the Jabberwocky, but he wanted to chill. He was in the history show earlier today, so that's.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, you did. Unfortunately,
I was just out today. I was out earlier. I had company, so.
Okay.
My father came over. So that's what that. So he comes over every weekend. So he didn't come over Saturday. He decided to do Sunday. So.
Well, cool. You know, you can just still see your dad. You know, that's really nice. So,
Yeah, it's good for me. It's we rekindled our relationship. So
that's nice.
It'll be cool to hear your father at some point. So hopefully he'll be in another show or come live or something.
Well, he'll be probably in the history show tomorrow, because he's off Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. So
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, like another thing I wanted to talk about was like it was really weird. Like the Republican House of Representative, member, I don't know for which state, but like this last week, got killed in a car accident. And like this is happening. Like we had Abe, like at the beginning of last month. In the same week of the 4th of July. Like that was what 2-3 days later, or something. Like, but then like a week after that, there was that assassination attempt on that sitting judge in the Supreme Court. Then there was that like other attempt, where the guy rushed the stage with like that fist weapon, trying to punch that guy like while he was doing a campaign speech. And like and then now this person actually dies. Like I'm just like And she's also a Republican.
Hold up.
It's just.
I think you're talking about the Indiana Rep. Jackie Walorski, maybe.
Yeah, Jackie Walorski.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it now.
I looked it up as well. So
I mean, like it could be just a happenstance, but like. Like she's a Republican during all this like liberal times and everything going on. It's just like it just seems a little fishy. It just seems a little too weird. I can't just sit here and say, oh, that's weird. Like I'm like, yeah, I think she was killed. I think this was like another one of these like brainwashed people, because like we all know that feds go on to Discord servers and everything and egg people on. Like that's exactly what happened to the 4th of July shooter. Like he was in a Discord server with multiple federal agents, and
really.
Yeah, and they're like, I believe, like this is what I've seen on various videos. So I'm saying hearsay at this point, but like I wouldn't put it past reality, because there is documented evidence somewhere of federal agents going into Discord servers. Maybe not this particular incident itself, but going into and egging people on, saying, oh yeah, no, like, you should totally do this, you should totally do that, like reaffirming, these people and extremifying them, and then they go out, as lone gunmen and everything, and then it's all to push like the gun control agenda and all that stuff, like,
Yeah.
I just found it weird, like after the whole Uvalde thing. Then, like, what was it, like, the next day, Canada is now talking about banning handguns? It's like, what does a school in Texas have to do with Canada? Like, what?
Yeah, believe it or not, even though that was in Texas, right? I mean, even our state, like, way up here, they were, like, in the papers talking about having extra security there and this and that and making people feel safe. And that was a worldwide thing. Like, everybody was getting freaked out by that.
Yeah. Well, Well, doubly because, like, the police just sat there as if they're being ordered to, And as I've said, like, the only police left nowadays are those who, like, actually support all this insanity. So, of course, like, this is how the Gestapo was formed. Of course they're going to obey rules and what they're told, because they're good little lemmings. Like, it's just terrifying.
It is.
What's happening. Like, and like, my dad, like, as I said, like, he grew up, during segregation. Now, like, he was out here in California, and, like, we didn't have all that stuff. That was mainly, like, a southern thing. But, there wasn't, like, whites only water fountains and blacks only restaurants and stuff out here. To my knowledge, there might have been, I don't know, but, like, not nearly, to what it was, like, out in the South and everything. But, like, he still lived during those times, and the attitude, was still kind of there and everything. People, went to the other side of the street to avoid him and stuff like that. And, there's still...
Since I'm with my grandparents here, they came from that time as well, and I could incorporate some of their morals that they grew up with in the 60s.
Yeah, but see, the point I'm trying to make is he's watching it come back. And the blacks, Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all this stuff, they're the ones causing it. Like the
Well,
very
whenever I
people.
see Black Lives Matter, it's like they're founded in Marxism, and I feel like people don't even believe or even know what Marxism is. So, but go on.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, you know, it's crazy. Like, you know, like when you think about, you know, our elders and all the stuff that they've lived through, it's insane. You know, and then like, you know, then you start, you know, thinking of like, you know, like what we're living through now. It's like, you know, we are going through quite possibly like one of the most, because like, you know, there can't be a most significant point in history because everything is significant in its own right, and you can't really place something above the other, you know, in this, you know, type of thing.
Yep.
But arguably, you know, these past couple of years, you know, and the next several are going to be the most period in all of human existence important, you know, times, you know, in world history. You know, not just in one country or another. This is all of us. You know?
I agree with you. I definitely agree.
You know? Because, like, as I said, we might be facing another 1,000 years of darkness. You know? And, like, if we get hit by, like, you know, coronal mass ejection, a CME, you know, a solar flare, you know, for the layman, for lack of a better term, you know, like, or if some, like, you know, rogue terrorist, you know, does, an EMP bomb or something, or if China does something, like there's thousands of different scenarios and everything that can unilaterally send us back to the 1800s. And the only difference between us and the 1800s is that back then they had the infrastructure to live. You know, they weren't going back and starting from there. They were still continuing, you know, their existence. You know, we have like everything today, you know, the internet, our power, our water, you know, like everything's on the grid. You know,
we're so used to every day to like day-to-day life stuff that if it was taken away,
yeah,
like how are we supposed to live again? Like,
yeah,
people are gonna, so
I mean, like, if people, and this has actually happened, if people will trample over like a fucking kid and step on his head and crush his skull in, that's actually happened, I believe. I know somebody's had their skull crushed in during this Black Friday craziness. If somebody will do that to save $12 on a TV, what will happen when the food runs out? You know? Like, you gotta eat. You know, that's number one. You gotta eat, you gotta drink. You know? You don't need a TV. And if people are willing to kill each other over a television set at Walmart, you know? Good Lord. And now we're having all of these food...
Well, I feel like that goes to just the mental illness problem we've got going on, but go on.
Well, you know, as I said, everything is connected. You know, there's that, you know, the mental issues. And, you know, then there's, like, you know, all the inoculations. What's in all of these things? Like, you know, by the time an infant is, I think 2 weeks old or, like, 2 years old or something, it's had 30 inoculations. 30 inoculations. And that was, like, 10 some odd years ago when I first found that. Now it's probably even more. You know, what's in those? You know, what is that doing, you know, to our chemical makeup? Like, we are the only species on Earth that does that. You know, yeah, it gets rid of things like smallpox and measles and, you know, polio and AIDS and things like that. But what if that's nature's way of, like, you know, keeping our population under control, and we've somehow, with our, you know, with our technological advancements, we've surpassed nature's ability to keep us in check, and then sooner or later, we're going to get that vibe check of all vibe checks, and that might be enough to just extinguish us, you know, because, like, right now, we are so dependent chemically on all these things that if, you know, if we just suddenly went cold turkey and went back to how we handled things, you know, in, you know, just 50 years ago,
Can you imagine
we will
if
have
we didn't
mass
have
deaths.
pharmacies and doctors?
I'm sorry?
Could you imagine if we didn't have pharmacies and doctors? I mean, people that rely on their medications they take every day. I mean, it would be so bad.
Yeah, but, like, keep in mind, like, we rely on all these medications because of all the crap we eat, you know? If we had a better, healthier diet, you know, like all the chemicals and stuff that we put into foods and everything to make them microwavable, to make them, like, you know, fast food, everything, like, you know, everything is hand in hand. Everything, and I mean everything. Unilaterally, everything is connected to each other in one giant goo. Like, you know, there is no string connecting this, that connecting these. No, everything is connected to everything else at once. You know? And it's crazy. You know, and like, you know, like I see movies like WALL-E and everything, and like how, like, you know, you saw how hard it was. Like they were all like these fat blobs of people, chair ridden and everything. I don't think we would have been able to physically walk, by that point. Like they got out of the chair and they were stumbling and bumbling around and and then they restarted civilization. I don't think by that point we'd be able to do that, Like, at some point, we as a species will have such atrophied muscles that it would be physically impossible to go back. We'd be solely reliant on our technology.
We wouldn't really be able to live in space because of that whole notion of atrophied muscles and gravity. You'd have to make your own gravity to live in space because people want to try to, populate another planet, and I just don't see it happening.
That brings up another thing, like, if and when we do colonize Mars and all that stuff, because of, the weaker gravity and everything, people, they theorize that, Martians, after a few generations, they will become taller, more gangly and everything because gravity is weaker on them. They'll have, less strong muscles and everything. And at one point, they might not even be able to come back to Earth because it might be physically debilitating to them, Because we can, we can step down, but we can't step back up, So, and right there will be a physical split in the human genome, based off of environment, and this is environment beyond Earth. We have all these different...
It would be nice to, incorporate another planet other than just observing it from afar. I don't know if you agree with that, but...
Well, to colonize it, or...
I mean, yes, or just bringing more up there to, understand everything that's on there. I'd like to know if there's any remnants of any other colonizers from any other planets, because looking at the planets, it's like they have to have another reason to be there other than just being observed and being there. It's like they're there for something.
What are you talking about? You lost me here.
Yeah, I know we were talking about colonizing Mars and all that.
Okay.
There's other planets too, right?
Oh yeah, well, there's what is it, Io or Ganymede or something? There's some frozen planet that might have liquid water. Io, right?
Right.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Titan?
Titan, I think. Titan, but plenty of Jupiter's moons, may potentially be habitable, to certain extents, with technological assistance. But also, I was watching something, and this is really interesting. But before I continue, I'm going to do another split here into part 3.
Because we've gone down that theology aspect, and I told you once before how, us being on Earth, we observe the stars, and I feel like that's specific to us species. For us, you said how, well, if you go in a different direction, they're not going to look the same, certain constellations and all that. I just feel like there's just certain meanings to certain things, you know what I mean? Even if it's stars or planets or this and that, I feel like it's important to understand more stars or planets in our solar system to really understand why they're there to begin with. And that could go back to the age of the universe, I don't know, but...
Yeah, well, before we get into that, I'm going to close out part 2. Stop recording. Alright, welcome to part 3 of Jabberwocky. I highly suggest you watch the first 2 parts. They're roughly 40 to 50 minutes in there, Anyway, no, we were talking about, planets and evolutionary divergence and all that stuff. But, something I wanted to bring up. I was watching something about Pluto the other day. And, we saw that, picture of Pluto, with the big old heart, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I never thought about this, but, you look at Pluto, and it's any other astrological body that doesn't really have, an atmosphere or anything. It's pelted with craters and all that stuff. But that heart area has very little to no craters in it. So that means that is new land within the past 10,000 years. So,
interesting.
But how?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out our reason in the Milky Way galaxy, because from what scientists say, that's just a small blip of everything and all the other galaxies that are in the universe. So,
well, no, what I'm saying is that there is geologic activity on Pluto all that far away.
Yeah.
You know, now, you know, and like you know what an extremophile is, right? Like it's a microscopic organism that can live in like extreme environments, extreme heat, extreme cold. You know, we found living ornament.
Is that like a bear thing? What was that called?
Tardigrade, yeah, the water bears. They can
Water
survive
bear,
yeah, they can survive the vacuum of space. You know.
That's insane. Yeah.
It's like, you know, they go into a dormant stage, you know, and then they have like this little thing that like, you know, this like, you know, small cocoon or something that goes over them or something, like, I don't know, like there's some secretion that they do or something that protects themselves, but like, you know, like they put them in the vacuum of space, you know, for you know, a week or something, and they brought him back in, put water on him, and then they're right back to wiggling. They're alive, you know, after being dead, you know, and like, now with that said, there is geologic activity on Pluto, you know, but it's not in the way. This is going to sound really crazy, okay? When ice melts, just the act of it melting gives off energy. It gives off just this minor, very minuscule amount of heat, because whenever energy is transferred from one, you know, form to another, you know, energy is created. You know, so water going from ice, a solid, to a liquid, you know, gives off energy. It gives off a slight heat. So they believe that there is some kind of like, for lack of a better term, cold volcanic activity happening on Pluto that ever so slowly, and we're talking like, you know, like micrometers, you know, per decades, you know, of stuff, but there's a certain cycle of material going into the planet and material coming out, and that's what that heart shape is. That is new land that's being spewed out like a lava flow, just a very slow one. Like, isn't that incredible? And so now, with that said, if there is, you know, which, you know, like, you know, if that is a true hypothesis, you know, if that is what's going on, then there is liquid water inside of Mars, or liquid something, and there might be life. Not Mars, well, Mars of course, but there might be life on Pluto. Can you imagine?
Yeah, it would be hard to tell because of how far and how cold that place is. Like, you know, it's a faraway place. I mean, didn't they like talk about how like whether Pluto was a planet or not at one point? There was that discussion,
Yeah.
or
Well, yeah, they called it a dwarf planet. Go ahead.
Yeah, now it's a dwarf planet.
Well, they classified it because Pluto is smaller than some asteroids in the asteroid belts. So if we're going to sit there and call Pluto a planet, then we got to consider all these other asteroids, you know, planets or planetoids. So, like, do we have, you know, 36 planets in our solar system? You know, that'd be a little hard to remember. You know, so Pluto is just kind of weird. You know, it's just out there by itself, you know, in a very, you know, hard to define size, you know, and all that stuff. But, like, you know, it's still hotly debated. Wasn't it Neil deGrasse Tyson who said it wasn't a planet to begin with? Like,
probably. I do watch stuff like him, so.
Yeah, he did, but also he said something. No, never mind. That was a meme. Bones are hard meat.
yeah. But actually, speaking of life on other planets, didn't we find fossilized life of microorganisms on Mars? Like,
Yes, right.
Like, didn't we find something like that?
Yes.
Mars. In 1996, a team of scientists led by David McKay of NASA's Johnson Space Flight Center announced that they had discovered evidence of microscopic fossil life in a meteorite from Mars. So, wow. You know? Like, you know, we might have life in our solar system. Like, you know, it's not going to be intelligent, maybe. I don't know. Like, you know, but there, I'm a firm believer that maybe there is life on, you know, what was it? What's that Jupiter's moon again? Europa? Sohan? Your light's lighting up, but I can't hear you. Sohan? Okay, well, Scott, what say you? Hello? Did I lose both of you?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, I think we might have, like, life on Europa, in, maybe Mars, maybe Pluto, like, who knows? Life might be a lot more common than we know. Like, when we say life, we expect, complex life forms, maybe advanced ones like us, or like how we view the Greys and like, other extraterrestrial life forms. But for the most part, life is going to be like, the single cell stuff and all that whatnot. And
yeah, like microscopic like type life.
But like I just read, 1996, they did discover microscopic single cell organisms on a meteorite from Mars. So
wow.
There was life on Mars at one point, So, but like I believe that we might Earth is not the only planet or whatever astrological body in our solar system to have life. It's actually probably
it's like
more areas than it isn't.
We're just searching for life that's similar to us, like somebody that walks and whether they breathe or not, or intelligent, sentient beings, like.
Yeah.
So I agree. Yeah, there's probably we'll find some of that microscopic life. It's just I think we're searching for just other beings similar
intelligent
to us,
life,
right?
We're looking for intelligent life.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, well.
Which they're probably just so.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you cut out again. Your microphone's doing your distant thing.
What are you talking about?
Scott's microphone is doing that weird thing again. I was talking about like like how I believe life is more common than not, in our solar system and by extension the rest of space. As far as like extremophile single-celled organisms, stuff like that.
Hello.
Gotcha. I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Just making sure. But yeah, what was I saying? Like, I feel like if, other intelligent life, they're probably just maybe giving us little cues, and it's hard to incorporate it all. Like, whether you need special equipment to observe them, or... Because I've heard deGrasse Tyson talk about this too, and they're like, oh, well... if they observe us in this planet and all that, it's like they don't have a lot of use for it. So I don't remember the exact quote, but he was trying to talk about, like, well, if they found themselves on this planet, they would be just way out of whack or something, like discovering Earth and Earthlings or something, because they would be so far ahead in in general that, I don't know, it's hard to say. I'm trying to think about it, but...
Yeah. We got a new member in the Discord, this Operation Crew, or Q. I don't know who that is.
Oh, nice.
And
so a random?
Yeah.
You got a random?
Yeah, I did. Actually, hold on a second. I can look in server settings and see who invited them. Actually, invites Dip. So, another person from Dip.
Oh, I see it.
Ah. Yeah.
Operation Q.
Operation Q. Q. Yeah.
Q.
Q.
My
yeah.
bad.
Well, let's try to see if we can fill in at least 12 more minutes just to make the show nice, even 2 hours long. That'd be cool,
Sure.
Yeah,
So, like, what else is there to talk about? Like anything else interesting happen? Like, in current events, whatnot. I haven't really been paying attention lately. It's just nothing but craziness. So.
Let's see. 21 minutes ago.
Well,
okay, so 21 minutes ago, it says U.S. Senate passes Democrats' landmark tax, climate, and drugs bill. That's the most recent thing I can find.
Well, I'm gonna eventually get started up on streaming again.
Yeah, you should do your stream.
I will.
All right.
Which I'm gonna do Claire Redfield's story on Resident Evil 2.
Nice. All
right.
right.
I already finished Leon's story.
Well, I think we're wrapping it up here, you know.
Yes.
Almost 2 hours, so it's been a good talk. You know, I thank you once again for joining, and Dip, if you're watching, thank you for joining as well. And thank you for your friend. I'm gonna have to see if this guy's cool. Anyway, thank you for watching, be it live or after the fact. And let's see, do we have any? We don't have any comments. We have one view. Anyway. Once again, thank you for joining us in our jabber walkie-talkie, you know, show, stuff like that. You know, once again, I am A.O. Xander.
Me.
We gotta share this in other places, I feel like, but
We do. Dip, welcome back to the end of the show. I was just.
We gotta do some sharing, bro. We gotta share this other places to get some views.
Yes. Anyway, we'll try to have another Jabberwocky next Sunday at 3 Pacific time, which is,
Noon Central.
Yep. 11 Mountain and, no, not 11 Mountain, no, not noon Central. No, 3 p.m. Pacific time, isn't that 5 Central?
Yeah, it's 5 Central.
Yeah. You threw me for a loop there. This isn't TDH. No, so 3 Pacific, 4 Mountain, 5 Central, and 6 Eastern. If you don't live in any of those time zones, do your own math. I'm not your calculator. Anyway, till next time, toodles!